Evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Town Council Workshop. Today is Tuesday, August 18th, 2026, and the time is 6:04 p.m. We are meeting tonight at 24 Main Street in Gray in the Town Council chambers. You can join us through Teams, and we'll do a quick roll call. Councilor Gass.
Present.
Councilor Edson.
Present.
Councilor Simino.
Present.
Councilor Johnson.
Present.
And myself, present. Tonight we are going to be having a workshop on pole-mounted solar energy systems. And please come up.
Good evening. I'm Brian Keith, owner of Northeast Solar Trackers. And what I have been here before, but just to kind of give a brief overview, what I'm looking to do is get our solar tracker systems allowed by your ordinance. And right now, our restricting factor is the height. I believe mostly it was designed for ground mount, which has been pretty common in surrounding towns as well as Gray, as you guys have quite a bit of it. And it was engineered for a particular height, and that's where a lot of the ordinances were written. This is another opportunity for people to get solar where maybe ground mount is not viable or roof isn't viable. And so this is a dual axis tracker. So what it does is it follows the sun in smaller footprints. It doesn't take up as much area. But with that, it does tip up to higher, or it really needs to function. It needs to be higher than the 15-foot limit that you guys currently have in the ordinance. So what I'm looking to do is to see if people would be on board with the pole mount system and there's a few residents in Gray that are looking to get these systems installed. They do perform very well. They've been around for a really long time. We've put in a lot of units in surrounding towns. A lot of your abutting towns have units. And so I guess tonight I'd like to answer any questions that you might have or concerns with the units. They are engineered units, and there are thousands and thousands of them installed around the U.S. for sure.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here tonight. I did some looking around on the internet, which obviously is a far cry from being an expert on this. I absolutely acknowledge that. I was interested in the materials that you shared, that you claim there's an 80% increase in efficiency from solar trackers compared to stationary panels. That some of the research I saw suggested it was more like 20 to 30%, and I just wondered, are you using different technology or what's going on there?
So 20 to 30% is what we can accomplish just with the bifacial panels, which with these trackers, because they're elevated, they're basically transparent on both sides. If you're installing panels on a roof, one thing that will reduce efficiency in a solar panel is heat. And so when it's on a roof, they actually paint the back side of it to be reflective to keep the panels a little bit cooler. Well, when they're elevated like this, and you'll actually find a lot of bifacial panels now being installed on ground mounts, and so you'll get 20% of boost just because it is a solar panel on both sides. And all you're trying to do is absorb light. The other thing is, I guess we do have, technology is always changing, and we do have side-by-side comparison that I think I've actually included in your packets. That's real world. We have fixed panels on our shop in Brunswick, and so they were installed probably 3 years ago, so we get to track the benefit on the very same lot, Route 1 in Brunswick, with a very similar setup, day to day, and now with 2 or 3 years in of data. Those are real world numbers that we have in the packet.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like, from what I understood, the benefit is from capturing the solar in the early morning and the late afternoon, like a side-by-side comparison of them in the midday is that they're pretty similar.
Yeah, and so because we're in the northern hemisphere, the benefit or the biggest benefit with solar is it needs to be perpendicular to the panel. For the most part, that's where it works the best. And in the northern hemisphere, in the wintertime, the sun is so much lower in the sky, and so to accomplish the best benefit, those panels want to be around 60 degrees from the ground. Well, in the summertime, it basically is straight overhead. So when a panel in the wintertime is at 60 degrees, it's not going to accomplish it's not going to see the sun as well. And the other part is, I'm not sure on the internet, there are single axis trackers, which you'll see that a lot of these ground mounts that you see on the side of the road are actually moving to the single axis trackers, so they'll just flip one way or the other. Ours, to take up less space, turns 360 as well, or 180 with the sun, so it chases it all day long at the perfect angle. And so that's where a lot of the biggest benefit is. And the best way I can explain it is for the suns to be the most effective, being perpendicular to that panel is really important.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like they're more efficient, but also more costly. But the return, that sort of ROI, is quicker with these.
Yeah, and I guess that's the way that we can look at it, is we're really buying kilowatts. We're not buying panels. We're trying to buy as much power that we can offset. And so because the return investment is so much faster, you would say that it is considerably cheaper that way, or it pays it back sooner in the benefit. The long-term benefit is more beneficial.
That's it for me.
So you're saying in the winter time is really where they're going to be, that their full 35 feet is in the winter?
Yep, most of the time, yeah. So the winter time is where it stands up the most because the sun is so low in the sky. You're really trying to get that benefit of staying perpendicular. The other part of it is in the winter time. Well, so we set ours up, and there's different ways of doing it. In different parts of the country, you'd set it up differently. But ours go in snow mode. So they actually tip up to shed the snow as well. Whereas we've all seen driving around the panels that are fixed for a month, as well as my panels at the shop. For a heavy winter snow, you lose significant energy because they're covered in snow, and just to clean them off every snowstorm is not super beneficial. So with these, they tip up in the wintertime to shed the snow as well. It's at that 62 degrees, and that's when you're going to get, and it's not 35 depending on where it is on the lot, somewhere around 30 feet to the very top when it stands up.
And I'm trying to remember, is there a set, is it like multiple panels, like is it different groups, so there's like one that's half the height, another on top that's the other half of the height, or is it all one, or how does that?
So there's 48 panels in a checkerboard pattern. So yeah, 48 panels. Some of our arrays are 42 panels, depending on what size panel that we utilize. We can do either one, but yeah, it's just in a checkerboard array.
But it's always that high. Like you don't do ones that are like half that height. They're always that.
Yeah, basically that's it. Even the 24 panels. So we have a 24 panel situation. Part of the benefit to this is as time goes on, land area is so important. Taking up as little space as possible, and so with these, they because they're elevated like that, you can still utilize. We've done a lot in farm fields where it's in a pasture where the animals can still graze underneath it. The farmer can still run his tractor to do his tedding and all that other stuff. So we'll elevate them. In the summertime, especially, they stay more flat because the sun is so high, so all summer long they may max out at 23 feet in height. It all depends on what time of the year, but it's like a six foot swing when it's flat to fully stood up.
What is the size of the 35-foot height? What is the square footage going?
So it's about 28 feet tall, the panel array, and then it's about 40 feet long. So 30 by 40 is the footprint, about 1,200 square feet.
How about the size of the house?
That about size of the garage, 30 by 40, or
So bigger than a
some
swimming
houses.
pool.
Judy.
What? I did see a picture.
Okay, good,
Yeah, I did
okay,
see a
sorry.
picture.
One of the big things, and one of the reasons that we got into this kind of the niche is because it will actually take up less than a third. Those 48 panels will do what 150 on a ground mount would do. And because the ground mount has to be spaced apart so one doesn't shade the other, you've got rows in between them. So we did a quick comparison. A 10-acre solar farm or field, we can accomplish in about 1.5 acres with it. And the only thing, it is a little taller, but you don't have to fence it in. There's a lot of safety issues too that you can avoid with these because the electronics aren't low. You don't have to put chain link fence around it. You don't have to keep the animals out. They can still utilize that space and a lot of
So I did a little bit of research on my own, and I read that some of the cons are is the runoff from them, because it's such a large area that it's, the rain's coming down on this, and it's gonna come down under the ground and cause some different type of drainage, So if you put this on someone's property and all of a sudden the drainage is going towards your neighbor, you could be causing some serious drainage issues with these.
Well, so the gap in between them is a couple inches in between each panel. So honestly, the grass underneath these units grows way better than out around it. It doesn't get burned. So it's greener and definitely thicker. So the drainage doesn't actually just run off in one direction like it would a garage, let's say,
Okay.
or a house or any other structure. It actually, and then at night when it goes flat, it's straight down, and so it is in a, the panels themselves are about 3.5 feet by 7 feet. So you're really
Okay,
not.
so it is spreading it out.
Oh, for sure, yeah, definitely.
Because it does say that there was erosion from some of those.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
I would see more of erosion with a solar farm, whereas it's in rows like that, longer rows where you get a drip line would be more than our system where they're spaced out so much. And again, just personal experience with the ones we have, I know that the grass grows way better underneath this than it does out around. It doesn't get burnt, doesn't get direct sunlight, and gets watered, and so it's greener.
So the other thing I read too is about the reflection of it. So like when it's at that degrees, like it's like this, it's gonna shoot off a reflection.
So that's actually a misconception with panels in general. So panels in general, they did all the studies, whereas they're black in color for that reason. So it's just like baseball players when they put, it absorbs light, so there's no reflection. So it doesn't reflect it, it actually absorbs light. That's why like the ball players put underneath their eyes. And that's the reason for panels being dark rather than light, is because it'll absorb more of the photons and the light energy, which it's trying to do. So it actually reduces glare.
So is there glare though still?
There's no glare.
No glare.
Yeah, you can Google it, but that's the color of them. So you if you had a white one or a lighter colored one, it would reflect light. Whereas the dark colored, you see them dark blue or dark or black, in color, and it's to absorb the light and to reduce any reflection.
So you're looking for the setback for the height of 35 feet, and what are you looking for the setback on the sidelines? Because it looked minimal.
Yeah, no setback. We're looking at this as it's really no different than a structure. It would have to meet all the other zoning requirements, setbacks from neighbors' properties or anything like that. So there sometimes there are concerns about shading or what have you on a neighbor's property. It wouldn't be any different than a building that way. But honestly, the way that it tips around, it doesn't cast that big of a shadow behind it, but yeah, no other reductions as far as setbacks from property lines or things of that nature. We're just looking to treat it as a structure.
Because 35 feet high is pretty high. If my neighbor put one of those in, I'd probably be pretty upset, honestly.
Yeah.
They're not like a beautiful tree.
Yeah, I guess it's no different than a garage or a house that's meeting the same height. And you know, I do look at it as being a pretty big benefit moving forward. You know, as power goes up and people are having a harder time paying their utility bills, this is a way to offset it for them. And you know, I would hope that towns are more accepting to allow people to offset their overhead, their electrical consumption on their home with these. And there's the ground mounts aren't that much more attractive, if you will. It's just a means of offsetting some costs. Most of the units, we have a lot of them around that you don't notice. Most units are in the backyard, and once you step back from the unit, the 35 feet definitely doesn't look as standing right there underneath it. But
I have seen them.
Yeah.
They're pretty apparent. That's for
Yeah.
sure. So the other question I had was it wasn't the setback. What was it? I think I forgot my question. Sorry. All right, we'll move on. If I remember, I'll come back to it.
I like these better than the ground ones. I just think the ground ones, there's a lot more maintenance. You've got to, I don't like the looks of any of them, but it's, the cost of electricity in New England is just, I run my AC in Florida all year long, and I'm not there, and my bill is $60 a month, and my bill here is $600. So I think we need to do something up here, and I like these better. They take up less space personally, and I don't know. I know they don't look pretty, but I'm fine with it.
I remember my question. So let's just say that somebody puts one of these up and they produce more than what they use. They sell that back to CMP, right?
So the benefit is in the state of Maine, it's called net metering, and so you're able to ship it to, we've done some where family members where two siblings go in on a unit and they place it at the better location, and then you're able to offset their power to another. We have a family camp up in Moosehead area, and we offset the power all the way up there as long as it's within Central Maine Power's district. It's a huge benefit that Central Maine Power allows us to do. Most states don't have that type of agreement where you can ship it back onto the grid and allot it to a family member or another location, so you can share it. Unfortunately, as time goes on, everything is becoming more electrified. You're going to see more electric vehicles on.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, there's not going to be a lot of sharing going on, I think, in the next 10 years with these units. But yes, you are able to do any.
And so when it goes back to the grid, it gets actually, CMP has to pay more for that, and then it goes on to the consumer as an added cost. Is that true?
No, so actually the utility encourages solar to a point. So we've all heard of blackouts, and so the more solar during these, well, here's a great example. I just went down to a Red Sox game, and because it was super hot out there and everybody's running their AC, all the T's were shutting down because there was too much electricity being consumed, and the way that on those very hot days, the way that the utility grid powers all of that is from one location. So it's very difficult for them to keep up with that instant power hit. So that's what the blackout is. That's when the lumber companies get the phone call, or the mills get the phone call to shut down because we can't keep up with the consumer's power. So all of these solar arrays during those days actually trickle charge at all these different locations, so they don't have to fire up those auxiliary generators that are typically run on coal or gas that are very costly. The utilities actually got a new program that just got fired up a month ago because it's such a struggle on those really hot days where everybody is running you know, the air conditioners and all of that other stuff, they're signing up with anybody that has a battery backup, which now batteries are becoming more and more popular than generators because they're very small. You know, it's half the size of this, and it mounts in your basement, and it can run your house for days. Well, so now you can sign up that Central Maine Power will be able to discharge all those batteries to help them keep up on those hot days, because they can't produce the power on a moment's notice. It's like a train. It has to get the momentum, and they can't get it fast enough, and that's what those blackouts
So you
happen.
say that these have batteries to them?
They don't have batteries. I'm just saying that the grid actually encourages it right now for more solar to be put on to help them get through those huge power demand.
Okay.
You know, those hot days. So they're and that's why they do the net metering, and they try and encourage, you know, to a point. And the threshold is when, you know, in the state of Maine, don't quote me on this, but I think we're at about between 65 and 70% is all renewable. So all the energy that we produce in a day comes from wind, water, or solar. Well, so right now they need another 25% so that they don't have to fire up those auxiliary generators.
All right, I don't have any more questions. I'm sorry it takes so long.
Well, I checked around, Ryan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you. I checked around, and you know, other towns are doing something very similar that we are with this particular solar mount.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're not like the Lone Rangers here.
Well, so we have, it depends on the town. So there's, you know, Freeport had a height limit as well. They immediately switched it. It was basically a unanimous vote. They said this is a benefit, and this is for the greater good. You know, there is an aesthetic piece to it, but that's really it. It's the aesthetic piece. It's the look of it. But as a whole, this is very beneficial. So they you know, brought the height limit up, and most, you know, Topsom, Brunswick, Durham, Pownell, all these other ones, they look at it as a structure. So they say, okay, this is no different. You know, nobody can say that it's other than aesthetics, that it's any different than a structure. So if you can build a tent garage at 35 feet, you should be able to put a solar array up that occasionally hits the 35-foot, you know, because it's not all the time. You know, more than 50% of the time, it's only, you know, 19 feet. The problem with it is our array, to keep it at a flatter angle, you know, there's no real benefit to that. At that point, I would say you go ground mount, you know, because it's not going to produce what you need. Your return investment's not there. So we really needed to be able to stand up and turn and chase that sun around to perform like it does. We haven't had a whole lot of pushback from any of the surrounding towns.
Well, I have Durham. You know, I went online, and I have Durham at 15 feet.
So that is a ground mount system. Mine's actually in Durham. It was one of two that I permitted with them. Boy, it had to have been 7 years ago. So they do have different items. Like, so the ground mount is such. This is a pole mount system, so it is different. So it's got different regulations. Like, so our pole mount is engineered for higher wind speeds because it's taller. The ground mount systems with those ground screws should not be more than 15 feet because they're not designed as such. You know, any wind can, you know, get up underneath them. And so a lot of the towns, you have to look at each solar ordinance and see the different categories. So
I did.
With them.
I did exactly that.
Oh, really?
Well, I do have Freeport at 35 feet, and I have Yarmouth at a maximum at the highest till at 20 feet, Wyndham at 15 feet, the town of Cumberland at 24 feet, and Standish at 12 feet, unless it's in a commercial district.
Yep. So I would say we haven't done one in Standish or Wyndham, and I guess I guess the question would be when we do go there, what they're going to categorize it as.
Well,
Again,
they have it categorized as a pole mount. I mean, that's what I looked at. When I looked, those were the words I searched for.
and it might be, well, so, and we haven't gone there, so I haven't researched those
Okay.
now. The ones that we have done is they haven't had any issues with the taller. Right now, we're doing one in Auburn, and most of them read the same as a building structure. That's how they treat our dual axis one. There's Topsom, Brunswick, Durham, Pownell, Freeport. I guess we've got about 45 of these up in different towns, and the only ones that we've come up against, we have a limit switch on the one in Cumberland. So what the limit switch is on Cumberland is it doesn't let it tip up all the way, but unfortunately with that particular system, it does take a hit, a pretty substantial hit. And so we do plan to go back and try and get that raised. And this is the quandary with a system, let's say in Cumberland. So it is a 24-foot limit switch on this. The array is the same. And so if I asked anybody to go there and tell me how tall this was, and that one we put down as low as possible, the homeowner knew that there was a risk that wouldn't be allowed to tip up that extra 5 feet. And we got pushed back by basically 2 neighbors, and they were very vocal. Mm-hmm. And so everybody shut down. But to go look at that, it looks exactly the same. And if you had 2 of them in the same, backdrop, you wouldn't be able to tell one's taller than the other than one's at a steeper angle. It's unfortunate that one got limited to that height, and doesn't have the potential because of you can't even back it up as its aesthetics, because we're allowed to put them up there. We're just not allowed to tip it up an extra 5 feet, which is kind of sad in my mind, because that, they're taking a hit with performance, and that's what we're trying to avoid. They knew it, and so we will go back to try and see if we can get that up that few extra feet. But to be able to put a unit up and look at it as it sits and not perform like it should, because of aesthetics. Because honestly, if we think about the ordinances as a whole, are we allowed to go tell a personal, homeowner that you can't build that garage because I don't like the look of it? You can't put that lean-to up because I don't like the look of it. There's really nothing out there that you can tell a homeowner they can't do because of aesthetics, because I don't want to drive by that. And that was the actual argument, unfortunately, was going down Tuttle Road. This thing is 300 feet from the road, and the argument was, I don't want to see this when I drive by it. My response was, you probably shouldn't be looking at 300 foot behind someone's house as you drive by. You should probably be paying attention.
So Ryan, who says it's going to be 300 feet behind their house? Do we have in our ordinance, Kristen, that it has to be placed behind the house? Because I actually know that one of the towns that I read, they specifically said in their ordinance that they wanted at all costs, to the best possible extent, that it has to be placed behind someone's house. Mm-hmm. So it's not to the side, it's not in the front at all. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be honest, these things are hideous. That's how I feel. And I would be upset if I had one next door to me. They're huge. It's bigger than a swimming pool on a stick. Mm-hmm. And then it's turning. It's not like some little thing. It's got a high impact, and it does impact the character, and it definitely impacts aesthetics and like historic areas in our towns. And I'm sure this is why some other towns have these height limits, because we actually have a village, a specific look for our village, that we've got for an ordinance. And why I feel like these are, they're pushing the limit for me.
Yeah, and I will say, so on that, this did go in Vermont. This went to Superior Court. These particular units went to Superior Court. I just drove up the ladder at Superior Court. Basically wrote case law that said you cannot ban these due to aesthetics. You have to have a structural reason behind it, because we can't tell people, other than historic districts, things of that nature, you can't say that an individual with their property can't do something solely because you don't like the look of it, because the look's in the eye of the beholder. I will tell you that AI, and this is the numbers that push out, if power increases, one of these units will make me $500,000 in a 30-year span. $500,000 is what it's going to offset. If you compare that to your mortgage insurance, your interest on your mortgage, it's very similar. So there is other reasons, monetary reasons, and to say to somebody that they can't have one. I do understand, like in historic districts, there's all kinds of aesthetic rules. It has been driven up the pole. Superior Court said you can't ban these things because somebody doesn't like the look of them. Everybody has the right to offset their electricity on their own property if they so choose, however they want to.
So has
And
our
that's-
town attorney weighed in on this for us? And we are well within our right with this? Yes, please.
Yeah, we did check in, sorry, Kristen, town planner. We did check in with the town attorney. Obviously, the town attorney reviewed this ordinance at the time when the council passed it, about a year ago, a little more than a year ago. Several of you were on the council, some were not. And one of the main elements to putting forth the height restriction was aesthetics. And it does say explicitly in Maine law that, and there's case law in Maine, that you do have the authority under home rule for aesthetic or historic purposes. I can share that full language with you if you'd like, but we do have a legal opinion, and obviously the language for any ordinance before we go to public hearing is reviewed by legal.
So simply put, what does that say?
You have the authority as a town council to have this restriction in place, as you do
For the height restriction.
for the height restriction. You can't ban solar outright. You can't tell someone you can't have solar, but it can be, let me read it. Legal instruments may impose reasonable restrictions on residential solar energy devices that are necessary to protect public health and safety, buildings from damage, historic or aesthetic values, when an alternative or reasonably comparable cost and convenience is available, or in shorelands under shoreland zoning. So the discussion at the time was that ground mount and building mount or roof mount are available, and that this level of height of a ground mount, we were considering them all to kind of fall under ground mount because that's where they are. Would not be necessary to go that high, that the council had the authority to limit it.
Yeah, because I mean, you compare this to a garage, Ryan, but I would much rather my neighbor build a garage than to build one of these. And to be honest, I have to wonder how much it would impact the value of my property if my neighbor, because you know I'm in the medium density district, and I have different side setbacks than people in RRA. So it could be very close to my house, and I'm just.
For sure. I do understand.
And I
I've
know
heard
you
all
understand.
these. Yeah, and I understand all these points. I really do. And to that, it says reasonable, and that's one. So we did go to an attorney as well. And the reasonable restriction, his basic word was, if you want to fight this, it could probably win because of the performance restriction. So I can show you side by side. People can put up ground mounts. We can put 40 panels in somebody's backyard. The return on investment just isn't there. So that's what it comes down to, is the performance. As long as it doesn't adhere the performance, the language, as long as it doesn't restrict the performance, and it says reasonable restrictions in there. So there's a lot of fight to be had in whether or not it's, can be aesthetically banned, because like she said, in historic district, in shoreline zoning, for sure, because we got other reasons. But when somebody's got 4 acres of land or what have you.
But is that what our ordinance says? I mean, do we say if you've got 4 acres, you can have one of these, or?
Oh.
No.
No.
So, I mean, why are we saying that? So if you live on a small piece of property like me, an acre, you can have one. If setbacks only, yeah, so.
So our attorney, that because we wanted to do our due diligence as well to make sure this, so the way that the state statute, the Maine state statute reads, the solar rights statute provides that towns may enact reasonable restrictions when they are necessary to protect public health, safety, and buildings from damage, shorelands and shoreland zoning provisions, and historic or aesthetic values. when a
There it is, right
alternative.
there, you just read it, right? Aesthetic values.
Historic.
You're- No, he said aesthetic
Well,
afterwards.
it does say aesthetic values, and there's a reasonable restriction there. It does go on to say as long as, it goes on to say about, performance, the state statute goes on to say about, and I'm not sure, I think you guys all got this packet emailed to you, so you read it. So there's a comparison, and so essentially why Vermont has case law, because you can look at it, and they shot it down when somebody went up against the town. Our attorney said, yeah, we want to throw a bunch of money at this, I think we could win, but it's going to cost you thousands to get there, like it did this guy in Vermont. And I was like, I don't have that, and I don't want to go up and see what's reasonable and what's not reasonable, so. And then it's very, again, the solar energy thing is a benefit to people. It's trying to offset their costs, their running costs, and it is significant. So each one of those units, my units, it's $1,100 a month. That's what it puts in my pocket. That offsets my tax bill. And I have one in the backyard that I weed whack around a 30-inch. I mow around it and I weed whack around a 30-inch sonotube. But it offsets my taxes, and so
And
I'm
I
like,
think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I think probably the people that need to have their CMP bill offset probably can't afford to have these units, but I think it's nice that some can afford it,
oh, well, and that's why that's why they have so many loans and stuff available, because it's a 6-year payback. The cost of one of these units in 6 years, you're going to get your money back, and that's with the CMP where it is now. So in 7, that's where your return on investment is so fast. And for me, so then I also went and said, okay, if we run an electric truck, and basically if gas stays at $4 a gallon, after 30 years, if I continue to run electric, it's going to provide me $620,000 of offset. That is so much money. So, and yes, aesthetic is there, but the sun's going to show up every day. If this sun's going to power my house, it's going to power my car, and it's going to save me that much money that I can retire and don't have to worry about my tax bill, looks pretty good in my backyard. And I'm only on 1.3 acres, and I have 4. On 1.3 acres behind my
You have
house.
4. Wow, that really makes me not want this. Just saying.
For the businesses that are looking to put these in right now, where at each business are they going to be located at this time?
So, and I'm sure that Adam won't mind. So Howell's is off to the right, next to his septic system. It's literally nothing else can go there. It's over his leach bed. So we're offset, so the leach bed has to have a 15-foot setback. So we're well beyond that. It's an 8x8 hole, 4 feet deep in the ground, and we fill it with concrete. That's the base. And then we loam over the top of it. So there's not a lot of disruption in the ground, but nothing else can be in that area. So it's over to the right of
the
the
front?
building.
Toward the front? So visible from the road?
Flush to the front of their building, however far back that is from the road. Yep. And then at Ace, he's looking to do it over his rental equipment. Again, we've put them in several farms now in the farm fields, and I will tell you where the alpacas go is underneath that. Where the cows go, every drive you can drive by, that's where they're congregated to save themselves from the sun. And the grass is greener, so they're laying down underneath these units in the middle of a farm field. Rather than doing 10 acres of ground mount, this guy did 1 30-inch sonotube and put it in his pasture.
Can I ask a question?
Please go.
This is a question for Kristen, actually. It's just whether or not it might be possible to restrict these to commercial areas of town,
Yeah,
or have different height restrictions, at least in different areas of town.
the ordinance right now doesn't contemplate pole mounted as a separate entity. It's all underground mounted. And because of the need to allow solar throughout the town, we didn't do it necessarily by district.
Right.
I'm not sure what the legality would be of limiting it to certain districts. I would probably have to look into that with legal. just to double check.
I do know that Standish has done that.
Okay.
In their ordinance, they have, in the residential, it's a 12 foot, so they have it even lower than us, but they have the building height of the 35 feet allowed in commercial.
Okay, yeah, the concept when we had brought this to council previously, when it was recently passed, was that the aesthetic value applied across the town. So both in the rural districts and in the more business districts or whatnot. So certainly if there's something you want me to look into, if you want to designate and provide some guidance tonight, we can draft something that would put together some different height restrictions for different parts of town, if that's what you're looking for, and I can run it by legal as well. If that's the route you want to go.
Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing if that's a possibility. I mean, I just should say I voted in favor of this ordinance when it came up before. Since then, I've talked to a bunch of people, including the Resiliency Committee, and I guess the sentiment that I've gotten, a lot of is, yes, some concerns about appearance and the aesthetics, as you put it, Ryan, but also, it's important for the environment. It's important for these businesses to help control their costs, and so there's, more solar is good, and that's sort of the best way to sum it up. And so anyway, I'd be inclined to vote for this, but I think I'd be interested in seeing if we could restrict it to at least commercial areas for now, or have lower height limits. I am concerned about, what I understand the setbacks. If you treat it as a structure, then there are existing setbacks, and I just want to make sure that, my neighbor, I live in the woods, so I don't have to worry about that. But in theory, that like if I lived in a more densely packed neighborhood, that somebody could put up a structure that might shade my vegetable garden, for example, that would really piss me off. And generally, I'm not so concerned about the aesthetics of solar, because my response to that is always, what's really ugly? An oil refinery. And obviously we don't have any of those, around us, and that would not be contemplated. But there's things that are worse than solar panels. They don't bother me a bit. So I'm inclined to see if we can figure out how to do this.
Any other questions?
I would like to see it as a commercial. I like see what the possibility is just to have it in a commercial zone.
Right. Good for now. She's got a little homework to do, and we'll go
Sorry,
from there.
Kristen.
Yeah, come on up, Kristen. Thank you.
I just want to get some clarity moving forward. So there's interest in seeing a different height requirement, potentially up to the 35 in commercial only?
Yes.
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 And there's interest in, so right now the setbacks for private solar are different than the regular setbacks for structure.
Oh.
They are more. If you read the ordinance, they're an increased setback, particularly like in the downtown, there's like a 0 setback and it would be a 10. It's an increased setback for these to keep them, again, for the aesthetic value.
I would like to keep it.
I would keep
So
that.
that's the other question, because I just want to make sure I'm hearing proper feedback. So retain the increased setback, but look at different height in commercial.
Oh, in commercial only.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good. Everybody's good?
I'm good.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate you coming in.
No problem.
We're going to
Thanks,
take a
Ryan.
quick